I finished all the quilting on my tabletopper now. I've gone across one way with the golden shiny thread, and then because that was going to snap, because it wasn't going through the machine quite as well as it might have done, I've gone the other way with just plain neutral coloured thread. So what's quite pleasing about this project is I started off with just some plain backing fabric and scraps, and well, you might not be able to hear it, but I've now ended up with something that feels like a rather unique, rather usable, interesting piece of fabric. Depending on your taste, it might be a bit too busy for you, but quite pleased with what I've got here. And I think I could have, if I wanted to, I could have kept fewer colours, and but you know, it is what it is. So the thing that I need to do now, there's not much more to do to finish it off, is I need to trim it down to size. Now, if you watched my Wonky Star project, which was for the same table, same coffee table, this is what I made, and that's another video you can watch if you want to. I'm just going to use that to square it off, because that's just the quickest way to do it. And so that's my next step. Oh no, it's not. I know what I need to do. I need to press it. You're something else. So while I'm waiting for the iron to warm up, I'm just going to snip off some of these loose threads. There's plenty of them. Get rid of those while the iron's warming up. I don't know if you can hear the birds outside, but it's very nice to hear, because we've had not a very nice winter here. Lots of very dark, sunless days. British weather is quite often a mixture of storms or windy, rainy weather, and then cold, crisp days. And what we've had this winter has been a lot of really, really overcast weather, and then we've had some horrible storms, and we've also had lots of cold weather as well. I'm not complaining, but as soon as it brightened up a tiny bit, the birds started up again, and it's been so nice to hear. So it's just the right time to be making something a little bit more spring-like to put in the living room, which is what this is for. So let's give it a press. Right, I'm quite pleased with that. It's nice and flat. That's one thing you do need, isn't it, for a table topper? You don't want it to be all bubbly, because your coffee will fall over. Right, here we go. Now, while I'm trimming this down, put some weights on, I think. While I'm trimming this down, it gives me an opportunity to say thank you to all the people who've subscribed, which has been great. Thank you very much. And I would say, almost more importantly than that, it is so nice to get comments and questions. And some ladies have told me where they are watching from, and I think Well, I don't know about you, but when I was younger, I had one pen pal in Germany, because I was learning German, and I was so happy when I got her letters. And she was much better at English than I was ever going to be at German. But I was so happy to have a pen pal. And then to get a text message or a comment from somebody, I think I've had them from New York, Mountains of America, North America, all over the place, Canada, and I just think that's what's so wonderful about the internet. We hear a lot about the bad things about the internet, don't we? But this is something that I think is really quite fantastic, that we can be connected, like threads connecting us across thousands of miles with our same hobby. Just think it's fantastic, and it's the best thing. So I just wanted to say thank you very much to everybody, and also for the advice I've had as well, which has been great, because I don't always know what I'm doing. I'm just kind of self-taught, muddle through, do this as a hobby, you know, and it's just so nice to hear what other people are doing as well. So I just want to say thank you. Right, so voila. Now, I love choosing fabrics. Got a few to choose from here. Can either go for, I'm leaning towards that, because it is meant to be something a bit brighter, this one, so, and I've got plenty of it, so I think I might do that one. The only other thing I might do is if I've got like a bright pink or gold, but I don't think I have. I've got, no, I think I'll go with that. This is the fabric if you're interested. Not sponsored or anything, but you might want to know what this is. I quite like it. The Sewing Loft presents the Colour Club, Wyndham Fabrics, Ecotex. Right. Good enough. First thing to do is to join up these strips, and to do that, get the two ends and pin them together at right angles to each other, right sides together like this, and put the pins in either side of, I don't draw it, but you can draw it on a diagonal line like this. So put the pins either side of that either drawn or imagined line, and then sew down there like that, and get the next bit. Whatever you do, make sure you don't twist it and end up with the join on one side for a bit and then on the next side, and then join the next bit in the same way. Put the right sides together, pin it, and then sew accurately diagonally across from there to there. As I say, you can draw that on with an invisible erasable fabric pen or something like that, but I tend to eyeball it. Right, so the only bits of this project that I am not sewing on the Treadle sewing machine are this bit now, and to join these bits up, and I did the second lot of quilting stitches in the plain cotton up here on that. But once I've done this, I'm going to be going back downstairs to put this binding on. So take the 2 pins out after you've sewn it, snip off the excess, and there's your joined piece. So I'll just pin this onto the quilt up here in the sewing room because it's easier to see, and then we'll go down and sew it. So here's my table topper. Now, might be because I'm left-handed, I don't know, but I always start here on my quilts. I put them on the table and I get my piece of binding, and by the way, just a word about binding. Binding is often called bias binding, and in case you don't know, that means that if you buy it or make it, it's been made by cutting across the piece of fabric on the bias, so it gives it a stretch, and that's essential if you're binding something that's not straight, i.e. as like a circular tablecloth or something like that, or piece of clothing that you're binding or something like that. So I never do that if it's something that doesn't have a curve, because cutting fabric on the bias is very costly of the fabric because you waste quite a lot. You use quite a lot of fabric up, making not very much. I think this is one of the reasons why when you buy bias binding, it's quite expensive for what it is. So if I'm in a situation where I don't need it to be on the bias, I don't have it on the bias, I don't make it on the bias, and I never buy bias binding myself anyway. So this has got corners, and the corners do need to be allowed for, but you don't need bias binding for it. This is just my opinion, and I never buy it or make it. So this is how I do it. I start here, about a third of the way down. I've got a tail here, but I'm starting about a third of the way down, very roughly. I'm certainly not measuring it on the right hand side. It doesn't matter what side, but I just find it easier to start here. And then I put a pin in here, like this. And then I'll pin all the way down, like that. And I don't pin the corner, because when I get to the corner, I pin it in place, keep it all straight, but I don't actually pin what I'm going to be doing at the corner, but I will be showing you what I'll be doing at the corner. So let's first of all sew this one side, but we first of all need to move downstairs because we're doing this downstairs. So that's the next step. We have this tail here, and I'm starting sewing just where I marked the pin, and it's going to be about 3/4 of an inch in. Bear in mind that when that's the stitch line there, that will give you the width of how much you're going to see when it's bound. And obviously I don't want it to be too thin. You want it to be proportionate to the size of the thing you're binding. So in my case, I'm going to do that about 3/4 of an inch, and I'm just going to eyeball it. I've never done this before. I've never bound a quilt on a machine that doesn't have a back stitch. If you were doing this on a normal machine, you would get to the very end, sorry, half an inch from the end, because I'm allowed, so 3/4 of an inch from the end, because I'm doing it 3/4 of an inch. There, like that. I'm actually not going to back stitch, but you normally would. I'm just going to see if that works or not on here. I can always, because I'm going to be hand finishing this, I can always put a few stitches in myself whilst I'm hand finishing the rest of it. So to do the corner, you fold that back there like this, and then put the binding back that way there, like that, and then pin that in place. And then turn your work around. By the way, sorry, I forgot to say, you must take it out and cut the threads. So then you've got your corner ready going, and then you can draw this on if you want with a marker pen, but I'm going to put that in 3/4 of an inch from the edge there, this edge, but I'm starting right at the beginning of that edge. Because I've not done this before like this, and I actually got a feeling it might not work. I'm just going to check it. So once that's all done all round, what we'll be doing is turning that to the wrong side, that to the wrong side, and sewing that down on the wrong side. So it looks okay so far, so I'll carry on. There's lots of videos on YouTube about binding quilts. I'm just showing you how I do it. Other people might do it a different way. This is how I do it. So I'm stopping 3/4 of an inch before the end. I'm going to take out the quilt. If I was binding the edge of table mats now, and I knew they were going to be put in a washing machine, I would be doing this differently. I would be making sure there were back stitches in there, etc. But because I know that this is only ever going to be washed by hand, and it's not going to be washed a huge amount because it's just going to be to top a table off, I'm not too bothered. And also, I'm not making it for a present. It's just for our house. So then fold that back there like that again. It's a right angle. Hold it in place, and then keeping it in the same position, turn the fabric, the binding fabric that way, then keep it all, pin it in place, and then come back down here, the other side, put the work back in. So you're 3/4 of an inch from this edge, but you're starting right at this edge. I should have pressed these flat before I started. This is one of the joins. Should have pressed it flat, didn't. Forgot. So I just press it with my hands. Like that. So now I've got to the end, or almost to the end. Take the work out again. And so there's the tail that we left before. So the thing to do now is to, I've got far too much here. Mind, don't get used for something. So the thing to do now is to mark where the join would be, and I do this by just lying them on top of each other like that, and I mark a pencil mark on the wrong side of that one and on the wrong side of that one in the same place, and then I join them right sides together on the pencil mark. So there's the one pencil mark, there's the other pencil mark, and I'll just pin them either side of that so that I can sew on the pencil mark, because that's the joining point. And then I will sew along there. And then before I cut the extra fabric off, and I've got far too much, it doesn't matter, I'll use it in patchwork or something, just lay it flat as though you're joining it up. I'll show you what I mean. So lay it flat like that, and check it does lie flat. Yes, it does. So now I'll just cut off the excess. I'll open out that join there, and then I'll sew up the gap. So it remains to be seen how secure this is, having sewn a binding on a treadle sewing machine and not used any reverse stitches to lock the stuff in place. But I kind of did this because I knew that I'm going to be finishing this off by hand, and therefore if there's any bits that aren't completely secure, I can put a few extra little hand stitches in. But that's how it's going to look. So I'll just show you now how I will pin this in place, ready for sewing up the back. Now, I think when I started this project, I said that I was going to quilt onto another layer, and I actually forgot to do that. This is the backing fabric for the patchwork, and when I got started quilting, I just kind of forgot to add another layer. And because this is only going on our coffee table, it's not a present for anybody or anything, I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just actually going to I'm just going to leave it as it is, decided. So the thing I'll do next is I'll fold over the binding and fold the end in like that. And just pin it in place, and then do that all the way around. And then when you get to the corner, this is how it's looking. Can you see the corner? Can you see the corner there? So just make sure that you don't pull that too tight. Do the same thing at the corner, like that, and sew that at the back, and that's how it will look. So I'm just going to sew that by hand now. I'm getting on with hand sewing the binding to the back of my quilt, and amongst the fact that I haven't had an extra layer for my quilting, I didn't put a back on my table topper, I've discovered this little piece of fabric which has magically got stuck into the back. I've obviously had a scrap here of the pink that was on the front somewhere, probably this pink here, and it's got put in the back like this all on its own. It's like a little heart, and it does remind me of a video I watched by a lady. She's a YouTuber, but she's in the UK, and her YouTube channel is called The Last Homely House. And in that video, she made a beautiful cushion for her friend, and she sewed a little semi-secret heart into the cushion for her friend. And I know this is not quite a heart, but it does remind me of that, and I might try and turn it into a heart, but that was completely random. So I'm just going to hand sew the binding to the back of my quilt, and that's the last stage.